This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google IvyPanda Free Essays.
Introduction. Perception refers to the process of organizing, identifying, and interpreting sensory information to understand and make sense of the environment. Perception involves the transmission of sensory information in the form of stimuli to the nervous system. Sensory information arises from the stimulation of different human senses by physical agents. For example, an individual can perceive visual stimuli whenever light lands on a certain part of the eye that perceives light. In humans, processes of learning, expectation, and memory affect perception significantly. Perception is controlled by the proper functioning of the nervous system. However, since it is not a conscious human act, it is effortless and automatic. The human brain plays an important role in the perception process. It comprises different parts that process different types of sensory information. Most of these parts are interconnected and complement each other. Stages of the perception process. The perception process involves three main stages, namely selection, organization, and interpretation. The perception process involves three distinct steps that occur continuously. The process is facilitated by the five senses, which include sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch. Selection. Selection is the first stage of the perception process. It refers to a process by which an individual chooses which stimuli to attend to and which to disregard. Stimuli to be attended to are selected with the aid of touch, smell, sound, sight, and taste. Stimuli and motives are two main factors that influence the selection process. Stimulus is defined as anything that makes any of the five sense organs function or respond to sensory information. Intense stimuli such as bright light, strong scents, loud sounds, and hot surfaces usually make sense organs that are associated with the respective stimuli to respond and become active. On the other hand, a motive is defined as an impulse or an incentive that motivates an individual to behave in a certain way. Motives usually influence the process of selection significantly. There are three main types of selection. They include selective perception, selective exposure, and selective retention. In all these types, an individual sees, hears, retains, and exposes himself to stimuli that are in line with personal values and beliefs. Organization. The organization is the second stage of the perception process. It involves the mental arrangement of sensory information to make sense of the happenings that take place in the environment. The stimuli that an individual chooses to attend to is arranged into patterns that are meaningful and easy to understand. Types of communication organization include punctuation, similarity, closure, perceptual schemes, stereotyping, and proximity. Perceptual schemes refer to the different systems that individuals use to organize impressions. Different ways to organize impressions include appearance, social roles, interaction style, and psychological traits such as nervousness and confidence. After an individual chooses a certain scheme to describe and group people, perceptions are then organized in different ways. These ways include stereotyping, punctuation, closure, similarity, and proximity. Interpretation. Interpretation is the third and final stage of the perception process. It involves the attachment of meaning to certain stimuli. Interpretation of sensory information is determined by personal values, experiences, beliefs, needs, involvement, and other personal factors. These factors make the interpretation stage subjective. As such, people exhibit different methods of perception. After sensory information is interpreted, it is then expressed either verbally or physically. Interpretation of sensory information is highly influenced by factors such as memories and prejudices. Psychologists have shown that interpretation occurs under different contexts and the outcome varies in different individuals. The mind interprets sensory information by forming connections and correlations between different stimuli. Examples of the outcome of interpretation include smiling, being choked, or withdrawing one's hand from a hot object. People interpret information differently. Some interpret information based on negative emotions, while others interpret it based on positive emotions. Factors such as intensity, repetition, and contrast make some stimuli more striking than others. Conclusion. Perception is defined as the process through which individuals decode information from their everyday experiences to make sense of the environment that they live in. People have different ways of perception. Also, their actions that result from interpreting stimuli are different. However, the process of perception takes the same pathway for all people despite the outcomes. Perception involves three main stages, namely selection, organization, and interpretation. Selection involves choosing the type of stimuli to respond to, while the organization involves understandably arranging sensory information. Individuals choose the stimuli that they wish to attend to, organize the received information in a way that makes sense, and finally interpret and express the stimuli. The processes of learning, expectation, and memory can affect perception in humans significantly. The process of perception is directed and governed by the proper functioning of the nervous system. This essay on the perception process stages psychology was written and submitted by a student just like you. The IVPanda Samples database hosts thousands of works similar to this one, on various subjects. Visit ivpanda.com to find what you are looking for.